we're live. Hopefully everything's good. I think the connection should be good tonight. So I'm here in Arizona, Cave Creek, Arizona, and which is right outside of Phoenix. So hello to everyone out there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kayla Cox. I am the owner of this here channel. I've lost over 80 pounds with intermittent fasting, specifically mostly Omad is how I did that, eating all the foods. I don't restrict anything. I don't count calories, and I walk 6 miles every day. So, and I'm currently maintaining that weight loss. I'm not in weight loss mode. Hey Darlene, good to see you here. Just to start off, if you are not currently part of our Facebook group, go be a part of that. That's a great group of people that we've got in there, very encouraging. Like if it's hard for you because you're doing intermittent fasting and you don't really know anyone else who is intermittent fasting, it's a great place for support because it's still a thing that not a whole lot of people practice. So it's nice to kind of have that group of people who you can kind of bounce things off of, like, is this normal? Because I think we all have those types of questions. So tonight's topic is the importance of easy. And I really wanted to do this because hey Teresa, it's one of those things that is so overlooked. I think everyone, like they get really focused on the intermittent fasting thing and they want to lose weight, and they overlook what I think is a very, very important part of weight loss, and that is making it as easy as possible on yourself. And this was a very hard thing for me to learn because I was the type of person who tended to think if it was easy, then that meant like I wasn't trying. And so then therefore it was like kind of like being lazy, and that was not good. Like, so in my mind, easy almost meant bad. Well, if it's easy, then you could do better. So I make it hard on myself, which then when I made stuff hard on myself, it actually led to failure. Okay. But it's very hard in the moment to just give yourself permission, I think, for it to be easy. And this is something that I've seen a lot of people do. Like, they'll come in and they'll be like, oh, they'll start intermittent fasting, right? And they're at like I don't know, let's say a 16-8, and they're having results with that. Like, they're losing a pound a week, and they get in a rush and they want to make it harder, and then they're like, well, hey, and I'm just saying this because I know this like mentality, because this is where I was in 2015 especially. I was always like in a hurry. I was trying to make the results faster. It's like, oh, I'm having these results, but I got to make it faster. So but every time, what has happened with me when I'm trying to make it harder, then it leads to inconsistency, because the hard thing is hard to be consistent with. But if you make it easy on yourself, it's easy to be consistent. And that it's so crucial. It's like, I cannot overstate how important it is to make it easy. If you're at a 16-8 and you are having results, stick with the 16-8. Don't like sit there and be like, oh, well, if I could just get to an 18-6, I'd have faster results. Or if I could just do a 24, then I'd be losing, a lot faster. In my experience, not true. When I look back at my numbers, it was shocking to me, really, because I really thought my weight loss sped up a lot when I went to Omad. No, it was about a pound a week. When I was doing it like a 16-8, 18-6, all the way up to Omad, it was barely a difference. So, but I think the thing is, it's hard for us to give ourselves permission for it to be easy. And it's so, especially if you are doing intermittent fasting and you find it easy, it's like you can start to overthink it, like, wait, this can't be right. Like that was really how I felt about it when I first started doing it. I'm having this weight loss. It's like, wait, you mean to tell me that I could still, like, when I was, a teenager, or when I was a kid, and I would sit there and be thinking, oh, I gotta eat, carrot sticks and low fat dip, like, you mean I don't have to do that? You mean I can eat like whatever I want? It's like mind blowing in a way. And so that can make it can invite in the temptation to overcomplicate things. So you can sit there and overthink it and make it harder and harder. And I think we do that in the hopes that it's going to give us quicker success. But I'm here to urge you to think of it differently. Think back to all the different times that you've done this, that you've made it harder on yourself and harder on yourself, and how's that worked out for you in the past, right? So that is, so my point is, easy is really important. Like, don't think, oh, it doesn't matter if it's easy or not, I'll get used to it. No. Focus on, does this feel easy? Can I sustain this over a year, like, or 2 years, or for the rest of my life? Could I foresee myself doing this plan or something really, really close to it? Because, that's our reality, right? Is you got to figure out something that you can do for the rest of your life. And for me, what that is right now is, intermittent fasting. And it's been important to me to, from the get-go, try to figure out how can I maintain this and think in those terms of like, can I continue doing this? So yes, so let's see. And this is why, also, let me take a little sip of this. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and it is dry here. So some of the elements of my my plan or whatever, some examples of how I incorporated the idea of let's make this easy, because I found Tim Ferriss is really the place where I first kind of heard this idea, and I know it's kind of bizarre to say, like, this is the first time I had ever really thought about the idea that it's important to make things easy. Is the question, what would this look like if it were easy? And it kind of rocked my world because it was so different. Like, I grew up on a farm, so I'm used to hard work, and maybe that's why, like, it was just always in my head, like, you gotta work hard, you gotta work hard. So if something's easy, it's almost like you think, wait, that's not right, like, that can't be right. Right? So that's why I take a cheat day. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, well, couldn't you do it without a cheat day? Or like, why do you still take a cheat day? Like I should make it harder on myself. Like, why should I not take a cheat day? I want it to feel so easy that I kind of feel guilty that it's so easy. And that's what I do. Like, I have resisted that temptation to make it harder, just to make it harder, just because, like, people are like, oh, well, you don't really need to take a cheat day anymore, do you? And it's like, well, I don't need to, no, but it's really, really easy. Same thing with walking slow. People, it's so funny to me. It's like, people are like, well, you could burn a lot more calories if you could walk faster. So, like, why should I want to burn more calories? Like, I'm at a good weight and I enjoy my walk. Like, because, see, here's what can happen is if you start to feel guilty, like, oh, well, people are telling me I should walk faster, and make it hard on yourself, then you're not enjoying your walk. You know what's going to start happening? You're going to start skipping out on your walk, I think. That's what I do. Like, if I try to make it too hard on myself, I start skipping out on it. Other ways I've made it easier. Eating all the food. That was another example of, like, I'm going to make this as easy as possible. Eat whatever I want. I do not limit carbs. I do not try to say, oh, only dessert once a week or once a month or whatever. It turns out I don't even crave dessert once a week, but I probably eat dessert like once a week. But that's only because I've just told myself, you can have it as much as you want. And then, there you go. It can work out, is my point. So, let's see. And so I've noticed that with my own pattern, but I've also seen other people who will, they'll say, well, yeah, I could do that, but I'm just going to make it harder, at least for the first little bit. I would encourage you, make it easier to start out with, and then work your way up. Like, if you feel like, well, I really want to get to, Omad, because it will simplify my life. I'm doing it for simplifying my life. But right now I'm at a 16. Just stick with the 16.8 for now, and maybe slowly work up to it as you feel it's easy. Don't say, well, I'm just going to jump into Omad and make it really hard on myself. And, because really, when it's really, really difficult, it can make you resentful, I think, of other people because they're not doing your plan, and they're not putting forth that effort that you're having to put forth. And it can start to seem like, why am I having to do all this hard work? And everybody else can kind of just be normal. And that was something that I felt, certainly. Like, when I was counting calories, I looked around and I was very resentful of everyone else who was not counting calories. And it was just not sustainable for me. And so the question is really, why do we really want to make it so hard on ourselves? Why? Like, how's it working out for you? So Okay, so let's see. Questions to be answered. So that's, if you guys have things to add to that, let me know. We're trying a new system here so that hopefully I can kind of keep up with the conversation a little bit better and also keep up with the questions. So, Mr. BB, Michael, you asked, since your 11-pound weight loss from your 5-day fast, about how much have you kept off? I've regained about 6 pounds ish. And that's completely normal. I expected really for more of the weight to come back on quicker. But Margot was telling me that Dr. Fung says about a half a pound per day of like a fast like that is to be expected, the weight loss or whatever. So, on a 5-day fast, that'd be what, like 2.5 pounds. So I would not be surprised if I gained, a total of like 8 or 9 pounds back. So that's been my experience so far. It hasn't been like a straight shot up. It's been like a little bit up and a little bit down, a little bit up. So, Kim, you said, hi, I've been watching you for about 2 weeks. I apologize if you've answered this before, but when you drink your coffee with half and half, do you have it in the morning or do you wait closer to your Omad? Okay, so I have coffee 3 times a day. Once right when I wake up, again about an hour or so later, and then the third time is in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock. Now, when I was beginning with intermittent fasting, I was a bit more strategic than that because it was more like I tried to put it when my meals would have been, like when I normally would want to eat. So like breakfast time, then lunchtime, and then that little period of time, in the afternoon when usually you want to kind of snack on something, I would put it then. Now I don't feel like hunger and stuff like that, so I really don't have to try to place it in a certain way. That's just kind of my normal like routine. So so that's how I do it. Kathy, do you count calories, and what is OMAD? So OMAD means 1 meal a day, OMAD, and it's a form of intermittent fasting. Basically, that's like a 24-hour fast. I mean, maybe it's like 23.5 hours of, a half hour of eating for me personally. Because when I say OMAD, I literally mean I sit down to the table, I eat my meal, and then when I stand up, I start fasting again. I don't leave a period of time open really where I eat. But you were asking, do I count calories? No, I don't count calories at all. I counted calories back in 2015, and I quickly became obsessed and just really got stressed out over the counting and the measuring and the weighing, and I grew resentful of it. Now, some people I understand have excellent results with counting calories, and I think there is value in learning those things about yourself, like, because I think it can be eye-opening too, because you might be thinking, or I certainly know this about myself at least, there were times when I thought I'm really not eating that much, but then when I started counting calories, I was like, oh wait, I was consuming a lot more calories than I really thought I was before I ever counted calories. So I would say it was at least educational for me, but it drives me crazy. But for people who have success with that, find that to be empowering, I say go for it. I'm all about whatever works for you. Sunny Rashford, you asked, how long does it take you to walk 6 miles? About 2 hours. It depends on how, like how much my walk gets interrupted, coming back to deal with kids and stuff like that. But generally about 2 hours. I walk at probably about 3 miles per hour, so about 2 hours. So, Mr. BB, you asked, am I at an all-time low weight? I was at an all-time low weight on the lowest day of my fast. But now I'm not. But I'm, I'm like at 139 this morning. So, and I'm trying to maintain in like between 140 and 145. So, let's see. Teresa White, does it bother you to prepare food for your family since they don't do OMAD? No, it doesn't anymore. Now, I will say in the beginning, that was, I quickly learned how, but my husband was super great in really taking over that, when he could, like he would fix breakfast for people. And my kids, I encouraged them to be they take care of themselves when it comes to breakfast a lot of times anyway. So, and lunch too. So homeschoolers, so breakfast and lunch kind of just are kind of on your own time. And so, but nowadays it doesn't bother me at all. And yeah, it just is not a thing. But I think it's something that it takes a bit to get used to, especially if you find, like what you get used to fasting, and it's really weird when you're not when you're not really experienced with it. It's like, wow, I mean, the food is tempting, but when you get more and more experience with fasting, it just becomes like, I'm not eating right now, so that food, even though it smells delicious, I'm not tempted to eat it, if that makes sense. Trina, you asked, how do you explain Omad to children? That's such a good question, and I'm actually going to make a video about this, because that, I think, is certainly something that a lot of, especially us moms, get kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, how do you explain that? And so, so this has been a whole, process for me, because, when I was overweight, I was super sensitive about the fact that I was overweight, like really, 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 really sensitive. So it was hard for me to even talk to my kids about weight. I didn't even want to talk to my kids about weight because I knew I was overweight. So I don't want to talk to them about dieting. And, I have a daughter, and I really didn't want her to grow up dieting. And she's very skinny. Like she's got her dad's build as far as that goes. But that was something I started to really be concerned about, was I don't want her to look at me and like me be a bad example for like how to eat. Like I didn't want to be constantly obsessed with food and like constantly on a diet in front of her. So then when I started doing this intermittent fasting thing, I really started to kind of worry, because I thought, oh, this is like, it's like, is this unhealthy? That was the first thing that I was kind of really worried about. Like, is this an unhealthy way to eat? And what I started realizing was, first of all, different cultures, worldwide, eat all different kinds of ways. And if you look back through our history, just, historically, how we have eaten just as human beings, that has been different. Like this whole idea of 3 meals plus snacks and, all this stuff, that just wasn't happening in the past. It's a pretty recent phenomenon. Even breakfast is relatively recent. And so I really just started to think, okay, in this culture, sure, it seems like, oh, that's odd that you don't eat breakfast, right? But I started to say, when I was a kid, for example, like a lot of times I didn't want to eat breakfast. I was not hungry yet. And so I thought, that's kind of like, I would rather my kids, like if they started to skip breakfast, would I be okay with that? That was the first thing I kind of had to make peace with. And I started to say, if they said, I'm not hungry when I wake up, and just, they wanted to eat lunch and then supper, that's okay with me. They tend, just so they tend to, wake up, eat breakfast, eat lunch, sometimes eat snacks, and they'll eat supper, and then sometimes snacks. But they're all at healthy weights, is my point. And so at first, they didn't even realize what I was doing. So I didn't, apparently, and even my husband really didn't know, I guess. I didn't even realize that I wasn't really telling him that I was skipping breakfast on purpose. But I just didn't say anything about it. And they didn't notice, and so I didn't talk about it. But as I got more comfortable with it, I started saying, like they eventually started saying, like, why don't you eat, lunch? And I would say, well, and at this time, especially I was talking about, or I was still losing weight. And I said, I got to a point where I was really overweight. I was what's called obese, and that was not good for me. And that was, that could have led to really bad health problems. And so I needed to get that weight off, which means I needed to eat less. And one way I could eat less, and then I explained, like, if you don't eat enough calories, then your body will burn fat. And so I need to do that so that my body gets to a healthy weight. And I try to just be very open and honest with them about it. And so the way I've explained it now is, like, now that I've been doing this for so long, I really enjoy this. Like, I like being able to, like, have my whole day where I can just, work and be productive and walk and all this stuff, and then, have my meal. That's when I get hungry, is at my one meal. So just being very open and honest and answering any question that they have. And then of course having the cheat day helps because then they do get, that one day out of the week where I am eating all the meals with them. So that's how I handle it. Just a lot of good communication. Uh-oh. I don't know if anyone can still hear me. But if you can still hear me, let me know. Okay, let's see. Ramos, Carrie, I watched your video on water fasting and it motivated me to do one. I started mine 2 days ago and I'm trying to do 5 days. I already do 16-8 eating, but my goal is to start doing Omad. How much do you eat? I don't know how much to eat while doing Omad. Okay,